Hey, colleagues, thank you so much for joining me for this Clocked In Live at Lunch episode, guys. And as I said it before, so I have to get the channel up to a certain level before I can actually go live at lunch. And so, in case you're wondering, why is it called Live at Lunch and yet I'm still recording videos instead of going live? It's because you guys have to help me. So, share this video. Like I said, everybody, all people are my people, okay? All people are our people as a community over here, guys. So share this with your friends, share it with your kids. Your kids need to know this stuff. Share it with your loved ones. Share it with whoever you need to share it with. Share it with everybody. Share if you care, because we want to make sure that everybody understands this. And like I said, it's not just for employee, straightforward employees. It's not just for management, but it's also for business owners. And I'll tell you why. There are times when I'm going to be speaking to things that apply more to just straightforward employees. There are times when I'm going to be speaking to things that apply more to business owners and employers and, manage team members of management and everything. So, this is, I'm not for bias. I'm for what's right. I'm for, us creating a fair and enjoyable workplace, which for some odd reason is just becoming, sort of a fantasy at this day, at this time. So, but we're going to be hopeful over here because, like I said, as colleagues, our goal is to always do our very, very best, and, we have to be prepared to deal accordingly with those who don't reciprocate. And the same for, employers, the colleagues on that side. You all are my colleagues. So regardless of which side you sit on, like I said, we always want to do our best. We always want to, provide the best experience and opportunities, which by, from whatever side we sit on, and we want to always be prepared to deal with things in a fair and right way whenever the other side doesn't reciprocate. And that doesn't mean just throwing people under the bus, but anyway, we'll get into that some other time. So what I want to talk about today, and the reason I want to talk about it is because I had someone reach out to me after yesterday's live lunch. Today's actually the same day, but you're watching this the second day, so if you wonder why I still have the same shirt on, it's because so I had someone reach out to me and they mentioned the fact that, I could have expounded more on the whole at will part of it, because a lot of people, after hearing yesterday's live on lunch, they could have thought that, about, well, bottom line, I have a lot of people say to me, well, what about at will employment? What about at will employment? What about at will employment? Here's the catch, and here's something I really want to, us all to understand, okay? Because these are the laws that apply to your life. If you are an employee or if you are an employer, if you're an employer, you know these laws and you know what I'm about to share. After I share, you will. But the point is, okay, so cut to the chase. At will employment means this. It means that an employer can hire you and fire you for no reason. No reason. The only thing that that they have to be mindful of is anything, being free and steering clear of anything that is even resembling, right, of a discrimination. Whether that's based on your age, there's the age discrimination law or act, law, same thing. There's ADA, which is Adults with Disabilities Act, which means you cannot fire someone for because they have a disability. So you cannot all of a sudden get sick or be, something happened to you or be injured some kind of way, and your employer, just say, well, since you broke your leg, you just can't work for me anymore. No, whenever a person has a disability, as long as it's within reason, the employer has to make efforts to make accommodations or, provide some kind of solution to help the person still be able to do their job. Okay. And so that, which a lot of employers don't. A lot of employers don't do that, and you guys should, for any of those that are listening, you definitely should. Because, again, it's a law, and it's a law for a reason. Just because a person, has some kind of physical, issue come up, or even a pre-existing one, does not mean that they should not have an ability or opportunity to work and earn money to take care of themselves and their families. So that aside, we'll get into that some other day. But back to at will. So as long as there are no laws that are being violated, meaning, like I said, discrimination, retaliation, you know, harassment, all the different things that people can get into, employers can get into, or members of management can get into when it comes to terminating someone, as long as it's free and clear. The person I just don't want you to be, we no longer want you to, we no longer need your services, or however they prefer to put it. Now, here's the catch. The reason most people do not get fired, and let me say it this way. The reason most employers and members of management do not take a free and clear at will employment approach to terminating someone is very clear. It is the bottom line. It is money. And let me explain to you what I mean by that. Employers have to pay two types of taxes for their employees, right? And that's SUTA and FUTA. FUTA, SUTA, FUTA, SUTA, however you want to say it. And those particular taxes are paid by the employer for the purpose of covering or providing benefits to former employees, right? So that's federal unemployment tax, the Federal Unemployment Tax Act, and the State Unemployment Tax Act. And so whenever an employer fires you, guess who pays those unemployment checks that you pick up? Your employer. And though it's not a really, really big amount of money that they pay on depending on, what state they're in, and just different things. So think federal law, typically they're paying, somewhere under $100 per employee, which doesn't sound like a lot, compared to what they make in most cases. But at the state level, it does get a little bit more tricky, because again, it's based on state. And so they have to pay, a percentage based on how much you've actually earned with that organization. Here's what they don't like about it. Not only do they have to pay you, but the more cases that they have where employees could legitimately walk away and say they were fired for no fault of their own, then their rates start to go up. Just like you don't want your car insurance rates going up, just like you don't want your whatever kind of rates going up, just like we try to avoid all these, dings and just crazinesses in life, and everything. They too want to cover their own area. They want to make sure that they're not going to be, impacted by the financial aspect or responsibility of firing you free and clear. So in case I haven't said enough, by sharing what I just shared, when you should have had, if you didn't already know what I just shared with you, you should have had an aha moment. You should have gone, oh, okay, now I get it, right? So that's where a lot of employers are messing up. And that's the reason why a lot of times when people get fired, there's something distasteful happening, something illegal happening, something weird happening. People talk about, oh, well, girl, I was, doing this and I was doing just fine. And all of a sudden, my boss started acting weird and like accusing me of all this stuff and writing me up for no reason. Well, guess what they're trying to do? They're building a case against you. They're trying to create a paper trail, and they want to create a paper trail so that when you go file so when they fire you for these fake reasons that they make up in a lot of cases, they want to be able to defend themselves when you go to unemployment and say, okay, so can't work for you anymore, but now I'm going to draw money from your unemployment insurance. And they want to be able to present a strong enough case against you that they can win and they can refuse to give you unemployment benefits. That's why you have to be prepared. What I've been saying, what I will continue saying, you have to be prepared. You have to stay prepared and stay aware and be on top of everything when it comes to your job. You manage your time like a boss, even though you're only selling time. In a lot of cases, you are selling your skills, you're selling your services and all this stuff. But what I'm saying is, you're getting paid for the time that you spend serving these companies, right? And that's valuable to them. The skills that you have are valuable to them. Whatever it is that you're doing for that company, whatever they hired you for is valuable to that company. and they are treating you like an option, and you need to treat them like one too. Not in a negative way, not to say, oh, I can go find another job. I don't care. What I'm saying is you need to cover your hiney. Just like they cover theirs, you need to cover yours. And that's why I say document, document, document. From the moment you walk through that door, it is now owned, as they say, like, I mean, you have to literally start to document everything. Don't wait till the stuff hits the fan. Don't wait till things get crazy before you start to document everything. Document everything. Document on Friday, August 16th. My boss came into the office and said, oh my gosh, you did an amazing job on that report. You're such a great employee, blah, blah, blah. And then you document everything. Oh, well, when I came in on this day, this is what happened. Or you document everything, because you are the best support that you're ever going to have when it comes time to, deal with unemployment insurance or to file a complaint with the EEOC. And I'm not telling anybody to start playing games or start, dealing with things that when truly you just weren't giving your best. You know what I mean? And so, but like I always say, we always do our best. And in the event that the other party doesn't want to reciprocate, then you be prepared to deal with it accordingly. So you have to really, like I said, you have to be, on top of things. All the fundamental bases have to always be covered. You'll hear me say it 1,000 times. I probably say it every video. Get showing up to work on time, wearing what you're supposed to be wearing, doing what you're supposed to be doing, and being where you're supposed to be being at the time. You know what I mean? Like I just said, when you're supposed to be there, doing the things that you're supposed to do, being excellent in your job, of course, is the most important thing. It's hard to prove a lie. That's why these companies get caught up and they get sued and fined. I've had some great conversations with the people at the EEOC, with different people there. And they know how these companies function. They know that these companies play these games. Since 1939, these companies have started playing games. You know why I say that? Because that's when SUTA and FUTA, the federal unemployment tax and the state unemployment taxes, were enacted. That's when that became firing an employee at will, as they say, or when just because they felt like it, that's when it became a problem for them, because now I have to pay money out and you're going to raise my rates if people keep leaving my company. So now it gives them, it's kind of like, okay, so you can either, play fair and bring people in and develop them and treat them fairly, or you can just get rid of people and, at will and just, fire people. We're going to give them some kind of cushion so they're not just out in the cold. And they don't want to deal with that. That's not how employers want to treat people. They want to treat people like objects. They want to bring them in and they want to, throw them away and, not train them. And they want to just get rid of people for weird reasons. Oh, she's black, or oh, she's brown, oh, she's white, or oh, she's, you know what I mean? I don't like the way he does his hair, and I don't like him being around. That, there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. Or like I said, budget cuts, and to me, honestly, I see both sides. As a business minded, businesswoman myself, I understand it. You have your budget change, you have to tighten the belt. And sometimes that means, if you can get, shift some people out of the company and save money, that's what a lot of companies want to do. I don't fault companies for that part, but here's where the problem is. If you're going to get rid of employees for that reason, then in all fairness, get rid of them, count the costs, look at the budget and say, yeah, I'm going to end up paying them X amount per month, which is a lot less than what I'm paying them per week. They're probably going to draw some unemployment, insurance because of this decision, but I still get to save the X amount of money. And I know what I'm saying is like, it's almost like finding a unicorn, because most companies don't want to play fair. They don't want to do it that way. Anyway, that's what I want to share with you today, colleagues. I just want you to be aware, because I hear so many people, I have a client right now that I'm working with, and she's dealing with the situation with, her job. I never share details about, situations without permission, at least, but but it's like she's dealing with a situation with her job, and the first thing she wants to say, well, can't they fire me, at will? Yes, they can fire you at will, but what they did in her situation is not firing you at will. There's a whole, you know, um, illegal, situation, and clearly, just a whole mess, should I say, behind why she's being terminated. And so I just wanted to just share that, with you guys. I wanted you to understand that at will, yeah, it does mean that they can hire and fire at will. But here's the why behind why most employers don't do that. And if you talk to people at the EEOC, they will tell you, we wish these employers would just exercise the ad will. Just tell a person, look, you're great, whatever, I can't afford you anymore, or we're just making some some organizational changes, or whatever the situation is, and let people just go on about their lives. They're going to draw some unemployment insurance, whatever they're going to do, but don't harm people, don't harm people's, reputation. Companies start getting into all this messy, unscrupulous stuff and stressing people out, throwing people under the bus when they know they're great employees, or allowing, like I said, some of the illegal things, covering up for some of the illegal things they're doing, like discrimination, age discrimination, adults with disabilities, harassment, all the things, like I said. And you have to, we have to play. All I can say is, look, either play fair, or you might just end up dealing with the wrong person. And like I said, to the employees, again, I just want you to be aware of what this it means, and what it's supposed to look like, the at will termination, thing. It does not mean that an employer gets to start doing wild stuff and falsely accusing you of things you didn't do, and leaving you out of meetings, and then punishing you for not knowing what happened at the meeting, or taking your hours so that you can feel the pain and just leave out, which is what a lot of them want to do. When it gets to that point, a lot of them they want to figure out sneaky and deceptive ways to push you out the door, because they don't want to just own, you know, just coming to you and saying, look, we just no longer need your services, or we're going to have to allow, different option here. You know what I mean? So that's the reason. So I want to share that. That's what at will employment is. And that's also what it doesn't mean, is for them to be able to do whatever they feel like doing, or just pushing you out the door. So anyway, I just wanted to share that, guys. And please do go ahead and click subscribe over here. I want you to get it up. I want to hurry and get the numbers up, guys. So Live on Lunch will actually be live on lunch, so we can, connect and collaborate and ask questions and network and do all the things that we're trying to do. I'm trying to get the channel to over here. And I just, so I'm excited. Subscribe, share this video with your friends, and make sure that they clock in with me, because I want to be here for everybody. Like I said, I've got your back. When it comes to members of management, I've got your back. The more the more you can go, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I don't need to do, or what I do need to do. When it comes to employers and business owners, I've got your back. Because if you, again, as I've said before, if you have people working in your company who are not knowledgeable, informed, and educated about employment laws, about the things that they can and cannot do to keep from putting your company in jeopardy, about how they can make sure that they are being an asset and not a liability to your organization that you've worked so hard to build, then you're putting yourself at risk. And so anyway, thank you guys so much for for clocking in with me for this particular episode, in this conversation. In the description, I'll have the links to how you can join the Colleague Hub. You can become one of my colleagues over here. I'm going to also have in the links how you can connect with me, how you can set up how you can book a conversation. I want to hear all about your situation. I want to hear all about what what your experiences are, whether it's from the management side, like I said, or from the employee side. I'd love to hear your experience. I'd love to offer you any kind of, support, that I can offer you. And I'm just excited, guys, about this. And like I said, I'm so glad that somebody pointed out earlier that, it'd be great to better understand the whole at will employment thing, because some people think it just means that people can do whatever they feel like doing. That's not how this thing works. It's not how any of this works. Anyway, guys, I love you. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you for clocking in with me today. Stay prepared, stay aware, and stay clocked in over here with NB. I love you guys. Have a great day.